Welcome back to Past Paradise, where we explore our favorite stars' secret pasts and astonishing tales. Today we're spotlighting Jayne Mansfield's life story. We'll explore how she became the Barbie of Hollywood and won the hearts of millions in a short time. Join us as we explore the determination, dedication, and skill that catapulted her prominence in Hollywood. Get ready for an exciting voyage full of amazing stories and trivia. Actual Barbie. Jayne Mansfield is famous for her stunning hourglass form. Her curvaceous physique was so popular that her measurements were printed in newspapers and publications by the media. There is a rumor that Mansfield's bust served as a major influence on the designers of the iconic 1950s brasiers. It has also been suggested that Mansfield had a hand in popularizing the bikini. In the 1960s, slimmer forms became trendy. Yet Mansfield's physique was once a hot topic of discussion. A brief career that has a deep influence. Despite having a brief career that lasted a little over 10 years, Jayne Mansfield significantly impacted society. Mansfield has a sizable fan base and 5 devoted children contributing to her legacy. She is one of the most adored celebrities of her era. This blonde bombshell, naturally brown, caused quite a stir in the entertainment world. We can all agree that even though her career was brief and she passed away too soon, her legacy will endure for a long time. Paul and Jayne Mansfield from earlier. It's evident from a close examination of this 1941 snapshot that renowned model Jayne Mansfield's circumstances might have been quite different. Just a year had passed since she eloped with Paul Mansfield, then 20 years old. Paul and Jayne fell deeply in love with one another very quickly. Regretfully, in the end, things didn't turn out well for them. The hectic swirl of Jayne's Hollywood career became too much for their marriage to withstand. An ineffective union. It is said that Jayne Mansfield cheated on all 3 of her husbands, including Paul Mansfield, who was her first romantic partner. Although Jayne and Paul separated in February 1955, their divorce was very drawn out. Paul battled for custody of their daughter, Jayne Marie, a year later. Because Jayne had appeared in her underwear for Playboy, he said she was an unsuitable mother. Despite formally divorcing in 1958, Jayne continued to use Paul's last name. Fresh starts. For Jayne Mansfield, divorce was an entirely new experience after a long marriage to Paul. She was prepared to let go of Paul and start again. Her first concern was providing the best possible life for her daughter, Jayne Marie. Paul returned to Dallas, Texas, from Hollywood. While her mother was one of the most famous poster girls of the 1950s and 1960s, Jayne Marie remained in Los Angeles with her mother in an attempt to regain some normalcy. Beginning a career. Although Jayne's first marriage ended faster than she had anticipated, thankfully for her, her profession had barely started at that point. Mansfield starred in a supporting part in her first movie, Female Jungle, in 1955. In only 10 days, the indie drama Female Jungle was finished on a shoestring budget. Jayne's manager and publicist, James Bryan, arranged a 7-year deal with Warner Brothers a few weeks after the film's premiere. As a result, Jayne was cast in 2 movies. Become acquainted with Mariska. Mariska Hargitay was born in January 1964 to Mansfield. Mariska was the youngest of 3 children she had with Mickey. If the child's name seems familiar, it's because Mariska chose to carry on her mother's legacy and went on to become a Hollywood actress who has won several awards. Mariska's most well-known part is from the longest-running live-action U.S. television series Law and Order: Special Victims Unit. Since September 1999, Mariska has played Olivia Benson in the program. Jayne would have been pleased. For me, it was traumatizing. Mariska Hargitay, the daughter, told about how her mother passed away when she was quite young. In a recent interview, she stated, "I think I learned about crisis very young, and I learned very young that shit happens, and there are no guarantees, and we keep going. That's been kind of my superpower and the gift of having trauma early in life. I've spent the last 50, how old am I? 57? So 54 years trying to figure out what happened and why, and what I'm supposed to do with it. She went on to say that the trauma left her in a frozen place. I was in that frozen place for a lot of my childhood, of trying to survive, actually trying to survive, she stated. Mariska miraculously escaped the horrible collision that killed her mother. My life has been unpeeling the layers and trusting again. She still has a zigzag scar on the side of her head, but she is oblivious to the collision or her mother's last moments. Getting the most of her Warner Brothers experience. Warner Brothers ended their collaboration with Jayne Mansfield when she accepted the role in the Broadway production. Jayne was glad to spend as much time as she could at the famed film studios, even if her tenure was not very lengthy. Jayne would spend her days sultrily strolling about the Warner Brothers property, attracting the interest of all the men in the vicinity. Her favorite spot to have picnics was the studio garden. She is seen in this picture hanging out at the studio with her cute dog. Initially in love. Mansfield lost her Warner Brothers contract, which was a significant setback, but she was also able to acquire other things that year, including more than parts in indie movies. Mansfield first made the acquaintance of Mickey Hargitay in May 1956. He would go on to become her second husband. Hargitay was part of the chorus line of Mae West's act at the Latin Quarter nightclub in New York City, where the pair first connected. Professional bodybuilder Hargitay was the 1955 Mr. Universe champion. Broadway and 20th Century Fox. Jayne signed a 6-year deal with 20th Century Fox in May 1956, the same month Mansfield fell in love with Hargitay. Jayne continued to work with Broadway's Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter under contract in the 20th Century. September of that year was her final Broadway appearance. Jayne's performance in the Broadway production attracted praise from critics and viewers alike. She was honored with a Golden Globe and a Theater Award for it. Jayne's major debut. Jayne chose to accept her first-ever leading part in a motion picture, The Girl Can't Help It, 1956, directed by Frank Tashlin, as Jerry Jordan after the conclusion of her Broadway contract. The picture became one of the year's most commercially and critically successful productions. Fox believed Mansfield would fulfill her 6-year contract with them, so they started marketing her as their poster girl, calling her Marilyn Monroe king-sized. Mansfield also secured a major part on NBC's The Bachelor later that year. Jayne Mansfield's wedding, her second. In January 1958, Jayne Mansfield wed Mickey Hargitay only a few days after her divorce from Paul became final. They exchanged vows at Rancho Palos Verdes, California, at the Wayfarers Chapel. Because the whole chapel was made of glass, it was simple for photographers to take images of the stunning bride. Mansfield's stunning pink sequin-covered skin-tight bridal gown violated many important wedding regulations. A custom designer for Fox in the 20th century created it. The moment Mansfield nearly did an Academy Award performance. To conserve time, the 31st Annual Academy Awards, which had Jayne scheduled to perform live with an orchestra, were eventually postponed. Nevertheless, the award ceremony concluded almost 20 minutes ahead of schedule, leaving Jerry MC to find a way to pass the time. We would have seen Mansfield play the violin if the recital had occurred. On-screen power couple. In almost every Italian film Mansfield starred in, including Promises, L'amore primitivo, and The Love of Hercules, Mickey Hargitay was her co-star. Verdicts? It was uncommon for Hargitay to be on film alone without Jayne at his side. Most of Jayne's well-known nightclub performances, including the Tropicana Holiday and The House of Love, starred Hargitay. The pair gained notoriety for their performances on TV programs, including the Bob Hope Christmas specials. Professional duo. Mansfield and Hargitay maintained a range of joint company interests throughout their days when they weren't engaged in doing feats together on stage. Along with running Jayne Mansfield's productions, Eastland Savings and Loans, and the Hargitay Exercise Equipment Company, this power couple co-wrote Jayne Mansfield's Wild Wild Word, an autobiographical book. The book was produced on glossy paper with 32 black and white photos. Around this period, Jayne has also been appearing on TV quite a bit. Little Zoltan. Mickey Hargitay and Jayne Mansfield welcomed their baby on August the 1st, 1960. He was given the name Zoltan Anthony Hargitay. Based on the snapshot below, it's reasonable to conclude that the Hargitay-Mansfield family was lovely. Despite her turbulent professional and personal life, Jayne did a remarkable job of maintaining the unity of a contemporary family. Jayne maintained a steady relationship with Mickey for a while and successfully raised kids from two separate fathers. But eventually, things started to take a different course. A dramatic and novel Jayne Mansfield. Some of Jayne's most noteworthy TV appearances were in Kraft Mystery Theater, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Red Skelton Hour, and Burke's Law. Additionally, she made an appearance in an episode of Follow the Sun in 1962, which was heralded as the beginning of a new and dramatic Jayne Mansfield. It was a new Jayne for sure, since her career took off at that time. Her pay for each episode was $20,000, which is $177,000 in 2019. For a few TV appearances, it's not too terrible. Malfunctions with the wardrobe. Mansfield was often known for making headlines because of her infamous PR stunts and wardrobe disasters. Her clothes always appeared to rupture strategically and abruptly at the seams. The notorious tight dress Jayne wore to supper at the exclusive Beverly Hills Romanoff's restaurant is among her most iconic looks. Paramount Pictures celebrated to welcome Sophia Loren, an Italian actress, to Hollywood. Sophia Loren is dissatisfied with Mansfield's choice of attire. Getting noticed by the media. Mansfield had further wardrobe malfunctions before the Romanoff dinner in Beverly Hills. To promote her new picture, Underwater, Jayne wore a red bikini that was intentionally too tight for her curvaceous figure at an event in Silver Springs, Florida. The audience went crazy when Mansfield jumped headfirst into the pool, ripping off her top. Mansfield attended a movie party and nightclub shortly after the Silver Springs incident when she wore a dress that kept falling to her waist. Career setback. Unlike her time at Warner Brothers, Jayne Mansfield was allowed to finish her contract with the Hollywood studio 20th Century Fox. When the deal ended in 1962, Mansfield received unfortunate news as the studio chose not to continue working with her. Due to Century Fox's decision, Mansfield was forced to return to the chaos of Hollywood and lost her job. She had to take immediate action to maintain her career. Mansfield ultimately turned to making appearances on game shows. Unpopular celebrity. As she got older, Jayne Mansfield started making appearances in various plays. Even yet, she continued to wear bold and provocative clothes. One of her most famous antics was attending a Mardi Gras celebration in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, completely nude. 1962 saw Mansfield in a Rome disco out and about, looking beautiful in a polka dot outfit. After making his film debut in Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter, Mansfield became one of the decade's most talked-about stars in only 3 years. A difficult marriage. The media swiftly denounced Mansfield's daring antics at that moment. She rose to prominence as one of Hollywood's most contentious celebrities when her marriage with Mickey Hargitay broke down. Mansfield has a well-known relationship with Italian producer and production manager Enrico Bamba. Only a year later, Mansfield had another affair with well-known singer Nelson Sardelli. When Mickey finally had enough, he filed for divorce in 1963, just before Mansfield found out she was expecting Mickey's kid. Content censored. If hearing this story so far didn't lead you to this conclusion already, it's crucial to remember that Jayne Mansfield constantly pushed the envelope at every turn during her brief career. When Mansfield was featured in the movie Promises in 1963, this was shown once again. Verdicts? Awaiting a peek at the production, fans flocked to the cinemas, particularly because Mansfield was almost nude for the film. The movie was subsequently banned everywhere after being deemed to contain obscene material. Single mother. It was unfortunate for Mansfield and Hargitay that Jayne found out she was expecting their third child just a few days after Mickey divorced her. Jayne and Mickey declared they would stay married, since having an unmarried mother would have negatively impacted Jayne's profession. Not long thereafter, Mansfield beat other actresses to play Marilyn Monroe's widow in the 1964 romantic comedy Kiss Me, Stupid. Due to her pregnancy, Mansfield chose not to accept the job. Actress Kim Novak took her place. Third spouse. In August 1964, little more than a year after Mariska was born, Mickey and Jayne made their divorce official and visible to the world. After a court struggle, Hargitay was appointed guardian of their 3 children, but the children remained to live with their mother in Los Angeles. Mansfield had a new boyfriend a month following the divorce in September 1964. She wed Italian-American director of films Matt Cimber. The two got together on the set of the theatrical play Bus Stop, in which Hargitay also featured. Cimber not only married Jayne, but also took on the role of career manager. Tony Cimber. Given Mansfield's history, you would not be too surprised that Jayne and Matt's marriage did not survive long. Although not much is known about their year-long connection, one positive thing will certainly come of it. Jayne and Matt brought their first child into the world in 1965, a few months before they decided to separate. Although they named him Antonio Rafael Ottaviano, Tony Cimber is his popular moniker. With Christy Hilliard Hannock, his third wife, Matt would raise Tony in the future. Jayne files for divorce 3 times. It did not take long for Cimber and Mansfield's marriage to fail, much like Jayne's prior unions. Cimber learned about Jayne's drug use and her public infidelities. Jayne also told Cimber she was happy with Nelson Sardelli, her ex-boyfriend. In July 1965, 10 months after the wedding, Cimber and Mansfield were divorced. Mansfield spent the whole year devoting herself to her studies in music. The first film in the West. Cimber was mostly in charge of landing Mansfield's prestigious film jobs throughout their marriage. He cast Mansfield in Single Room Furnished in 1966, a film that needed Jayne to perform 3 roles simultaneously. Following the completion of shooting Single Room Furnished, Jayne starred with Mamie Van Doren and Ferlin Husky in the low-budget comedy The Las Vegas Hillbillies. It was Mansfield's first Western, The Las Vegas Hillbillies. She embarked on a 29-day tour throughout the United States to promote the movie. The drive-in version of Marilyn Monroe. Jayne Mansfield had one requirement before the Las Vegas Hillbillies shooting started. She would not be appearing with Mamie Van Doren. Mansfield and Van Doren shared one moment throughout the film, although they recorded their portions separately to be put together afterward. Her precise comments were that she would not share any screen time with the drive-in's answer to Marilyn Monroe. Mansfield was still having trouble concealing her baby weight while she was shooting, having given birth to Tony, her 5th child. Returning to her origins. Jayne Mansfield never ventured too far from a stage of life, no matter where it led her. In 1966, the gorgeous actress had a rough time in her Hollywood career. At that point, she decided to return her focus to the theater. After Mansfield concluded a performance in a play of Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, this endearing backstage shot was taken. Following a fantastic performance, Mansfield's ex-husband, Mickey Hargitay, surprised his ex-wife backstage by bringing flowers. Final gasp. This article clarifies how often Mansfield's personal life and media stunts interfered with her profession. Still, Mansfield was undoubtedly one of the most successful superstars of the 1960s, even despite her repeated failures. Early in 1967, Mansfield wrapped up her final part. She appeared in a cameo filmed in the Gene Kelly-directed comedy Guide for the Married Man, co-starring with Inger Stevens and Robert Morse. Mansfield was inadvertently credited as a technical consultant in the movie's opening credits. A visit to Biloxi. On June 28, 1967, Mansfield and Brody took a nice trip to Biloxi, Mississippi, together with Miklos, Zoltan, and Mariska, 3 of her children. Mansfield was supposed to play that night at a little nightclub in Biloxi. On June 28th, Mansfield appeared at the Gus Stevens Supper Club. She understood it was time to leave for New Orleans, Louisiana, as soon as the concerts concluded. On June 29th, she had television engagements booked in New Orleans. The mishap. It was time to go after Mansfield's appearance at the club ended. The nightclub driver, Ronald B. Harrison, had volunteered to take Sam Brody, Mansfield, and the kids. In 1966, the party departed in a Buick Electra. A few hours into the journey, Harrison came to a section of the road that was completely black because of a device that emitted a dense fog to keep insects away. Harrison then struck a vehicle from behind at that point. Mansfield, Brody, and Harrison were instantaneously killed in the collision. The children amazingly made it through with just minor wounds. The terrifying information about the crash. Following the collision, horrific images of the site were released, sparking intense speculation regarding Jayne's whereabouts. When a picture of the incident revealed Jayne's trademark blonde wig wedged between the dashboard of the wreckage, many began to speculate that the celebrity had been beheaded in the collision. But the reality was far different. Dispelling the false statement, the funeral bureau said they thought it cut off her head, but it didn't. A crushed skull was observed in Mansfield's autopsy, so I know she wasn't, because I embalmed her. Part of her wig was dislodged during the impact, leaving her hair across the windshield. A lover of Jayne's Buick purchased the vehicle and kept it immaculately in his garage for years, turning it into a source of interest. The car seemed to still have bloodstains on the seats from that terrible evening. In 1999, the vehicle brought $8,000 at auction. A lucrative star. When Jayne Mansfield lost her life in this tragic vehicle accident, she was just 34 years old. Looking back on her hectic career, however, you can see that she accomplished a great deal in her lifetime and significantly impacted society. Mansfield continued to be one of Hollywood's greatest idols until the mid-1980s. In 1980, CBS produced The Jayne Mansfield Story, starring Lonnie Anderson and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Hargitay. Her life story was narrated by A&E in the television series Dangerous Curves in 1999. Leaving her palace in the past. Mansfield left behind her stunning home, known as the Pink Palace, after her favorite hue, along with her 5 children. The home was purchased by Jayne in 1957, and she later made renovations to fit her taste. She painted every inch of the home pink, including the lighting, the walls, and the bathroom, which had a stunning heart-shaped bathtub with pink fur. Before he started bodybuilding, Hargitay worked as a plumber and carpenter. He constructed the gorgeous heart-shaped pool on the property. Following Jayne's passing, the Pink Palace was sold and went through many well-known hands, including Ringo Starr and Engelbert Humperdinck. However, Humperdinck sold it to someone who finally demolished it in 2002.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon